Welcome to Waging War, the podcast where we discuss the battle between truth and lies. We believe that if you know the truth will set you free.
Hello and welcome back to Waging War. I'm Sarah Keel, and today I get to talk with my good friend Sabrina Denney, who is in recovery. She runs recovery houses, but we're going to talk about that, but we're also going to talk about some kind of difficult things to talk about, but that need to be talked about. Sabrina and I have had a lot of really good conversations in private, and I thought she'd be great to come on. So why don't you tell us about yourself, who you are, what you do, your story a little bit.
All right.
Yeah.
So I'm Sabrina Denney. I'm in recovery myself. I got sober in 2015 when I went to treatment. And then I went to a sober living myself after that. And it was okay for what it was. I think that if you want to stay sober, you can do it anywhere. But some places are like more conducive than others, you know. So, you know, for what it was okay. I didn't really hang out at the house a lot, and I had people from the outside. And I wanted people to have a better experience. I want people to understand that they can, that they're worth more. So I kind of raised the bar a little bit with them. It's more than just a house, you know, it's a whole program. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, we do a lot of enrichment. We do worship, like Bible study and worship every other week, and it's mandatory. Mm-hmm. Just to kind of get people, you know, aware and open.
Mm-hmm. How many houses do you have?
Right now we have 6. We have 3 men's, 3 women's.
Right, and so you and your husband run these houses.
I run 6, he has 4.
Oh, okay, so you have 10 houses.
Yes.
Between you and your husband.
Yes.
Yeah, and so, but your passion came from your own personal story with addiction. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I had breast cancer in 2010, 2011. I got diagnosed. I was real young. Yeah. So I had several surgeries and became dependent on the opiates. And I didn't like being sick, so like that went on for like 5 years. So it was like one for the other. I lost my kids, I lost my home, I lost everything, my family. And I remember like crying out to God, you know, begging. I'd beg God to take it away. And, you know, it finally came down to it. And when I went into treatment, it wasn't me, you know, that did that. Like it wasn't me that woke me up. We talk about spirituality a lot in my program, and I tell them about like the logic and the science behind the disease. Like, if you look at the science behind it, you're not supposed to go get better. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to die, you know, so your brain, you know, is not supposed to be like, hey, I should get better. You know, it's not how we're wired. So something outside of us, you know, like nudges us, you know, towards getting better. You know, and I thought that was pretty cool. I'm like, I must be special. You know?
You had a divine intervention in your life.
And I talk about grace. You know, because people say, I did the work. I was like, well, so did a lot of other people. And I think that we're given a gift. I think that we're given a gift that we didn't earn. Mm-hmm. You know, and who knows why. Mm-hmm. But we should treasure that gift, you know, of another chance, that grace.
And you had said you had lost all your kids. Mm-hmm. And did you get them all back?
Yes.
In recovery? Praise God. How old are they now?
So Tori's 18, Molly's 17, and Lily's 13.
And would you say God is restoring those relationships? I mean, I know relationships are hard, parenting's hard, right? That's never going to go away. But would you say that God has greatly restored those relationships?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have proof. So
yeah.
When I got my kids back, so I went to Louisiana to live with my mother and my kids while she had custody of them. And I tried everything, like, you know, that I could do. So I went to attorneys, I went to the courts, I went everywhere. I wore myself out, and I still didn't even know where to start. But I had been communicating with the clerk the whole time. I drove her nuts. I think her name was Cindy. Anyway, so yeah, I drove her insane. And but I had a lot of people rooting for me too back in Knoxville. And I finally gave up after a year. It'd been a long year. I tried everything, and I said, you know what, God? And I said it out loud. I said, if this is where you want me to be, that's fine. I was like, just show me the way. Like, show me what you want me to do, and I'll do whatever I need to do. You know, I was full of acceptance, and I had surrendered and reached out. And like, I'm not exaggerating. 30 minutes later, when I went into my job, looked at my email, I had my kids back.
Wow. Wow. So would you say that was a turning point for you?
Yes.
That divine miracle, God heard your prayer.
Yes.
In that moment.
And it started to become a thing around Knoxville, like blind faith. You know what I mean? I've always had blind faith. If I'm pushed to do something, like even the houses, and I know that it's God, you know, working through me, telling me what to do, then that's what I do. I do it. And it always ends up okay, you know, and we help people.
Yeah, absolutely. And so did you go to a lot of different treatment centers in your recovery?
I went to
in and out? Two. Okay. And did you go to jail?
Yes.
Okay. Lots of times. Yeah.
I did. I was a late bloomer though, so I didn't go to jail until I was I think I was in my early 30s.
Okay.
The first
You are a late bloomer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I thought I was untouchable because I ain't been to jail. You know, like I'm not in jail. You know, you have. I'm not doing that bad yet. I didn't get caught.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was in my early 30s. I'm like, I'm not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
You know? And I hated it. My mom bailed me out the first time, and she did not after that. So I sat in there a few times. You know, I got bonded out a couple of times, but I did not like jail. And, you know, so I have a lot of empathy for these girls that, you know, I've kind of been through everything that they're going to go through or they have been through. And I understand how they feel without having their kids. And that's my passion, is getting, you know, these moms transition back with their kids and their families. You know, because like it's trauma for them, like
to be away from their kids. Oh, totally. That'd be horrible. And my experience of you, which I love, is you know what you want to do. You want to help people. You get scrappy with it. You go for it, and God just provides. And, you know, there doesn't have to be this extravagant plan or business.
Oh, I have no plan.
Yeah.
No, zero. Never did. You know, I don't, even when I go speak or I go do a class, I don't plan beforehand. I pray.
Yeah.
And then I go in and do the group or the class, you know, what I'm doing it on. So I never make plans, you know, when it comes to like recovery or anything like that with helping people. I just kind of go in blind and let God lead me. Because if I make a plan, that's me. You know what I mean? So like I really don't read off of anything. You know, I just talk about what, you know, whatever's on my heart to talk about that I think they need to, you know, discuss and hear. And, you know, usually it's helpful. We talk about codependency. We talk about, you know, different maladaptive relationships with like food and gambling and you know, sex and love and all that stuff. We discuss all of it.
Right. Because it all kind of points to the same thing. I mean, and that's why, you know, you want to reduce stigma with addiction. Well, the best way to do that is to just help the rest of the world see that they have the same problem, you know, just with other things. I think that's the best way to resolve stigma, right?
Exactly.
So, okay, so you ended up going into a recovery house. You went to treatment, you'd been in jail, you'd lost your kids. Did you go to a treatment house, a recovery home before you got your kids back?
Yes.
Okay, so what was your experience like in a recovery home?
So I was, like I said, I was a late bloomer, and I came from, you know, a decent family. Like everything was pretty and looked good. I didn't come up like, you know, the other people in there where they were in the, you know, coping the projects and all that. So I was different. I didn't know how to clean a bathroom. They showed me. I learned.
Nice.
You know, like, it don't smell like bleach in here. I'm like, I'm coming. I was always in trouble because I'm ADHD. So I leave a cup, I get a check. You know, my bed would be messy, I get a check. And so I stayed in trouble, which is fine. So I was always had consequences. So I'm over here cleaning a funeral home or cleaning, doing this community service. And you know, I didn't feel like you know, I was like loved or I was I guess, you know, of any significance really.
In the recovery home?
Yes.
How many people live there?
I'd say about 15, maybe.
15?
Mm-hmm.
And how many rooms? How many bedrooms?
1, 2, 3, 4, about 5, maybe.
So what, 5 people to a room?
There was 4 in mine.
Yeah.
There was 4 in mine. There was 3 in this little bitty other room. But I just, I just remember that I was kind of, I feel like I was discriminated against because I wasn't, I didn't come up like that. And I didn't know anybody in Knoxville. But I learned a lot about addiction recovery there, and how people can fool you, because I didn't understand that people like relapse all the time and everything at that time. So it made me sad when everybody would go out and relapse.
What are some things you saw in the recovery home? What's one good thing and what's one thing that you're just like, oh my gosh?
So basically the what I saw that I didn't like was people were using, as long as they paid rent, they could stay. And then I got in trouble for telling on somebody that was nodding out in a meeting. I'm like, you're going to pay for the jug screen if it's negative. They told me. I was like, okay. But it was really corrupt. Like, like the owner would kind of manipulate things in a way to where it seemed like you owed more than you did. And kind of threaten you with money. You're going to be kicked out and all that stuff. But nothing was really like recovery related in there. And actually, she relapsed shortly after that. But
the owner of the house.
Yeah. But it was kind of corrupt.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure that fed your passion to have recovery homes that are not like that, right? You and your husband, I'm sure. But I mean, we don't have a recovery house for Renew Clinic. We would love to have one day, but we love that we have the Sabrina and Christian Denneys in Knoxville and in Anderson County to be able to refer people to, because I know that you take it seriously. But there's a reason that you want to open so many, and there's a reason. It's because, like you said, there is a problem with corruption even in this industry, and people taking advantage of a vulnerable population. People pretending to be something that they're not, people in this for the sake of gain and greed. And so what are some things that you've seen in the addiction recovery industry, not naming names or anything like that, but that you've seen just behavior-wise? What are a few things that you've taken note of that really bother you?
I see a lot of unethical behavior. When it comes to like house managers or directors with the clients. I see a lot of, they turn their heads if somebody's, like I just said, somebody's, paying, they'll turn their heads to what they're doing. And then, they'll bring, they're bringing drugs in the house and all that. But, as long as you pay your rent, you're fine. And, I get a lot of that. I see there's houses that the clients decide who comes and who stays. I don't think that they're qualified to do that. Like it's life or death and it's serious. So if I don't like your face, it's not a reason, for me to make you leave. And that's what happens to a lot of them. So I get a lot of calls like that.
Why do you think that it's ran that way, where the people who live there are making decisions on who can come in and stay?
Because it's attractive to people that are new in recovery, because they get a lot more freedom in those places. And they can do whatever they want pretty much. And I think it's more attractive than structure. And it's less intimidating, so I think that's why, this is cool. Like, we're just run it and we don't have to have mean old, Sabrina over here, running it. So I just think it's attractive to them early in recovery, and it kind of like, it hooks them in. And then, if they don't fit in the cliques and everything, they'll make them get out.
So there are cliques. Yeah.
In the houses. I don't allow it in mine, but there's cliques.
Yeah.
I always say.
How do you deal with cliques in your house?
I split them up.
Okay.
Yeah, I deal with it is what I do.
Right.
Don't deal with it, I deal with it.
I deal with it. But that's so healthy. I mean, that's an intangible gift and talent within leadership, is dealing with things swiftly and not allowing toxic behaviors to fester and to grow, because you're a shepherd of that house. these are people coming in that are under your care, and you got to think about the whole and how it's going to affect everybody. And so I think that I commend you for that, that you deal with it. And we should deal with things swiftly. So what are some other things that you've seen in the industry that you would say, you know what, that's not right?
It's like I said, it's the almighty dollar. At the end of the day, I know everybody needs to eat. But with our profits, like we put it back in to the girls, at the end of the month and everything. Like we have a fund for like the IDs and stuff like that. A lot of people don't do that. So they're like, well, good luck. They come in with no ID, no clothes or whatever. And I've got people from that live in other places calling me, can you help me with clothes? Can you help me with, an ID? But that's actually their responsibility. I help them because it's the individual, and we always do. But there's that. Another thing I see is people, they're not giving them a chance to get on their feet. So this place isn't going to shut down, if you give them a couple weeks to get on their feet. Like I said, it's life or death. So
you would recommend that somebody opening a house to give somebody a couple weeks to get on their feet first. Don't just say, hey, pay up. Yeah.
And, it stresses them out, stresses the clients out. It would stress me out. And, I'm almost 10 years clean, so I can imagine how they feel. And I know a lot of them feel like a number. They feel like people don't care. Feel like they don't care about what's going on in the house.
What about the conditions of the homes? What are some of the conditions?
So a lot of them have insects. I remember I tried to go to another place too early in recovery, and like I went in the kitchen, just roaches everywhere. Like that's not okay.
No.
People will leave roaches, bugs, and all that stuff, and make them live in squalor. There's a couple of them that I know that have rats running around in them. And if we want people to heal, we want them to be like safe and secure in their home and not have to live like they were living before. And that's how we do things. Like we have, beautiful, clean houses. I'm very hands-on. So I communicate with all of them all day long, every day. And I think people don't understand with, when they open these houses, it's 24/7. Like you're sacrificing this is your life now. It's not about, if it's about, money, you're not going to make it very long, or you're going to cause a lot of harm. It can't be about money. Like you have to connect with these people. And, that's what's missing from a lot of them is they never connected before. So you want to give them that, that person to trust. That they can trust, that can be consistent, that walks their talk. I'm not perfect, and I tell them that. I'm like, I'm probably more messed up than y'all,
But they get that you care.
Right, but I'm honest.
Yeah. What would qualify somebody to be discharged? What do you think is a good qualifier?
So the only good qualifier to be discharged is if they don't want to be clean. Like if they don't want to be there, or they're forced to be there, and they have a bad attitude, or they still want to use. I tell my clients, if you tell me the truth, like if you call me, if you mess up and call me and tell me the truth, which is probably the hardest thing to do,
right?
On the planet. So I get it. Like we'll work with you. Usually if they're trying, if they're, I see them putting effort into their recovery. I'm a realist and things happen. I don't give up on you very easy. Anybody will tell you that. Like I've had people in my program for years. If they want recovery, they'll get it, with us. And, some people are just really quick to be like, get out. I'm like, this is somebody's life.
Yeah.
If you have to get to know them. You have to.
It's an individual basis for each person, I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of them have been like, just kind of trafficked, I guess, because they're shoved from one place to the other place. It's the treatment industry and everything else. It's just, it's a lot of it's corrupt. It looks like trafficking. You have these kids with mental health issues, and they've been to all the facilities, and they'll just bounce around, and it's like they have no say-so in where they go. So that's kind of sad. And
what are some red flags that you would say people to look for? If you see this, run, or if you experience this, avoid it.
So I would say a male opening up a women's home, is a big red flag. I actually called somebody out on that, a few months ago. But I'm like, what are you doing? But that there's no reason for that. And then I think that if the director is like super, like, I guess flamboyant with, like a brand new car and like all this fancy stuff, and walking into, their people and they're sitting there with no food or no clothes, and they're, like something's off there. When they allow people in that work for them to use still and work with the clients, I see a lot of that. So just things that will floor you. Sometimes they have relationships with the clients, that are not appropriate. There's just so much that goes on, and it gives us kind of a bad name. But you have to do it for the right reasons. And like, I never thought that I'd be doing this. Like, I wanted to go into marketing and wear fancy clothes and go to the lunches and, and just be pretty, take pictures and go home. And I tried.
Who doesn't want to do that?
Oh, I tried a million times. Like, yeah. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna help out over here. They're gonna be all right. I'm just gonna help out and, set them up, and I'm gonna go up here. And then we get another house and we fill that up. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna set them up, and then I'm gonna, kind of transition out, and I'll just do the marketing thing. And that's where the money is and everything else. And then we had another house. And, so now we have 4 or 5 houses. So I had to accept that, God was kind of pushing me on the front lines. And the thing is, like, I don't know how I'm qualified. They're like, well, they talk about imposter syndrome. I don't have that because, like I said, I don't make a plan really. So I don't really think that way.
You just go and do.
Yes.
Aren't there laws protecting people in recovery homes from being taken advantage of, or even in the industry? I mean, you're talking about people having like sexual relations with people they're supposed to be helping. I guess that's what you're alluding to, or people being greedy and taking from a vulnerable population. I mean, aren't there laws, would you say? I mean, I would think that there'd be laws protecting people from things like that.
Unfortunately not. When they come in, they sign, all the things that, they sign the waivers and all that stuff. With us, they sign the residence agreement that, we can, discharge them at will. But unfortunately, they don't. And all we can do is kind of speak out about it. I don't like to. There's a lot of wonderful programs in Knoxville.
Yeah.
There's a lot of not so wonderful programs in Knoxville. Just bad conditions and places that claim to be faith-based are some of the worst ones. Because everybody kind of turns their head to that. Like, they're faith-based, everything's fine, and then there's so much corruption going on. And like, you want to, they call them flop houses, and where they just pay rent and that's it. Like, you want to be responsible for your part, because you need to do that service, for them. Like, you're providing a service, so you have to provide the service. So, like, you have to provide a program, I think. And so, like, we're real, like,
so
that.
Would you say that a red flag would be that there's no programming to go along with the recovery house, that it's just a place for people to pay rent and that's it? Yes. I mean, it's like, okay, so what are you doing, because you can do that anywhere. You can go rent a room anywhere,
Right.
So, yeah, I can understand that. Well, you had talked about some of the things that you do with the women. We were talking over here, and you had talked about, whenever people come in, like, you had talked about just the spiritual war that you experience and that you can feel on some of the people coming into the homes in early recovery. And so what has been, well, let me kind of point the question this way. What has been your spiritual journey in all of this? I know that you had in your early days, you prayed to God, He's come through, and you just kind of had this like childlike faith when it came to God. I mean, whenever you believed in God then, how did you understand Him? How do you understand Him now? and then we'll take it from there.
So I used to think that you had to earn your way into, having God love you. I used to think that you had to be good, and you had to, say the rosary 87 times, and you had to, go to church. I was raised Catholic, and, if you're bad, you go to hell.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I knew of it. I've learned through all this that, as broken as I am, as tarnished as I am, with all my defects, all my flaws, I've accepted them, and I'm still loved and favored, and God's proven that to me over and over again with the miracles that I've had between, the kids. When I came back to Knoxville, I had nothing. I packed them in the car when I got custody and brought them, kind of a car, brought them to Knoxville with no plan. I said, I never make a plan, right? No plan. I'm like, I trust you. This is what you want me to do. It's where you want me to be. And, 2 months after that, we stayed with friends and all. We had a townhouse. Somebody gave us a chance for that. And then, we bought a house a few years ago, but life just got better and better. But my life's set up in a way that I can help and be of service now, which is really cool. So I'm always grateful for that. I stay busy. Like I said, it's 24/7. My phone never stops. It's a good problem to have. But we can't have enough good and stable environments for them to come into. People are popping up houses everywhere, and I always question the motive. And I'll help wherever I can with others, and I have. I'll send in my program. Here, use this. This is trial by fire. This is 7 pages of it. You can use it. And I've given it away to a lot of people because I want them to help, and I want to help. So it's not a competition, it's basically a ministry. And then you were asking me how, when they came into the house, and that feeling. So, it's a battleground. I think that addiction's a spiritual affliction. I do. I think that, like I said, if you feel like a slave, like it's a form of slavery, and I said it's the devil's greatest invention, because you destroy yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's got to touch you. You destroy yourself. And that's genius, I guess. But it's like a battleground between me and them, and who's going to win this one this time. And I never know, but I'll fight it with every one of them. Mm-hmm. We have a really good success rate too, but I'll kind of stand by them and hold their hand through it if they need me to. And I have a lot of really, really great house managers that believe the same way I do, and they're there to help them out of service. So it's really cool watching people turn their lives around and start to talk to their kids again after years and all that, and see all those blessings come in. I teach them about grace. I teach them about all those things and why they're special. Mm-hmm. It's like you're a miracle sitting there, and this is why. Mm-hmm. And you should cherish the gift that you have, that you couldn't earn. And even though you throw it away over and over and over again, God still loves you and gives you another chance. Mm-hmm. So we're here for a reason. There's a purpose. I don't have to know what it is every day, because sometimes I ask them, why, really? Because it's not always fun. But and I'm like, why? My phone's ready off the hook. I want to throw it in the toilet. But at the end of the day, I remember, okay, I'm blessed to be able to do this. I would do this even if I was a millionaire. I'd still do it. Mm-hmm. And so, that's, I'm really lucky. And I want to see grant money used towards, places that people can go into and get on their feet, and they can just take care of them for a few months and, allow them to save money and get a job and maybe, look at cars and kind of get set up before they start having to pay fees. Mm-hmm. And I would love to turn that into a reality. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking for ways to do that now.
Sure. So, in the addiction recovery world, I would say the primary understanding of God is higher power, more of a universalist perspective of God. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I know that, you've been a part of many different fellowships that probably think that way. And there are some, and we had talked about this before, there are benefits to like helping people understand that there's something greater than you, that you can't do it on your own, you need divine intervention, that kind of thing. But to actually, our mission, even the mission for this podcast in a lot of ways, is to make a case for Christ in the recovery community. And, you're talking about spiritual warfare. You're talking about it's a spiritual disease. You're talking about, people being treated properly and with dignity, restoring that dignity. I mean, these are all very Christian principles. And so how do you see, and I know you've been on a journey, a spiritual journey, and please just speak plainly here, but I know you've been on a spiritual journey from, because we've had conversations about, you having some questions about Christianity and about Christ and stuff like that. Where are you at now? What are some of your questions that you have now? Or, where's God brought you?
I've questioned my faith before when I see, horrible things happen to innocent people or, kids passing away and all that. I'm like, is there a God?
Sure.
And then he'll show me that he's there, and I come into an understanding reluctantly, because I got to get drug kicking and screaming for everything. I'm the stubborn one. So reluctantly, got a visual, I'll come to acceptance with that too. And that he knows more than me, about, the greater plan. So, today where I'm at, because like I said, it goes back and forth. I'm not perfect, but I always have, I've been seeking for a long time, and I've always had questions, but these last couple of years, I've really seen a lot of evidence, that he's there, he's with us, and with our clients, we have a pastor that comes in every other week, and I can just feel the difference. They love it. They feel the difference. It's a lot lighter in there. They have hope and inspiration. They have some self-worth. And the higher power thing's all fine and good, but we say we need to surrender everything to a higher power. I'm not surrendering my kids to a doorknob. And I make that analogy. I'm like, that's ridiculous.
Right.
And so I'm like, no, you can't make your higher power a doorknob.
Yeah.
And have these new age kids come like, you need to respect what I believe. I'm like, well, that's all fine and good. But while you're under my roof, mama, you're going to do what we're doing. And they come around, but I have a lot of them that, have come in like that started accepting Jesus and started, praying. And I'm really proud of them, young kids.
Yeah, totally.
With the mental health and all, the mental health is the kind of tricky one when it comes to faith. Because a lot of them have a lot of trauma. And they're jaded. And I always tell them, like, you can use that stuff. Like, once you get out of that and you start to understand that, these can be gifts that you can give somebody else. You can save somebody else from going through the same thing. If you see them on that path, like, this happened to me, let me tell you about it. And maybe you won't, go down that path like I did. And you can go in another direction, and I can save you some pain with my pain.
Yeah, I mean, God can utilize, he uses all kinds of different types of suffering to be glorified, for us to understand him and his love in a way that only we can, perceive it. I mean, for me, it took a lot of mental breakdowns for me to really grasp the grace of God, that I can truly not save myself. My good thoughts don't save me. My good intentions don't save me. It is truly what Christ has done for me, and placing my faith in him. That's it. Plus nothing.
Right.
So.
And that was hard for me to grasp. I have to be good. I have to be,
And we'll continue to struggle with that probably till the day we die. Because I'll still catch myself like, oh, there I go, trying to earn God's love again.
Yes.
Or there, I'm trying to earn his acceptance again.
Right.
I still can struggle with like feelings and thoughts of like condemnation, just in my humanness. I think that That's a normal experience. But I'm sure you're aware that a lot of people in the recovery community believe Christianity and to be bigoted or too narrow-minded, or there's many pathways. Like, who are you to say, kind of thing. So I think that that's one of the obstacles, some of the barriers that kind of trying to reach people with Christ. Those are some of the barriers that we can come up against. I mean, you said it yourself. There's a lot of different people with a lot of different beliefs coming in, and that's great. Come as you are. Come as you are. And that's how Christ receives us, is come as you are. But I would say beliefs, like New Age beliefs, are pretty prevalent in the recovery community. So I don't know if you want to speak to that, but.
I'm not really old fashioned, but the thing is so this is truth. Like, you're not going to change truth. So
the your truth, my truth thing.
Yeah. So this is truth. Like, it's not going to change because you want it to.
Right.
You might not like it, but that's the way it is. Just like the sky's blue. It's not going to be purple because you want it to be purple. Right. It's going to be blue.
Right. But that helps people
work
have
your way
sanity,
around it.
Right? That helps people with sanity.
Yeah.
And I think that the your truth, my truth thought produces insanity. Like, it doesn't help people.
My truth's sick.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything that goes on in here is not okay.
Yeah.
So,
praise God, my truth ain't real.
Yeah, that's why I told you I'm not a planner. I don't think about anything before I go in, because I'll wreck it real quick.
Yeah.
So I allow God to use me as a vessel a lot. And I'm very open to it because I know that it helps. But I have to have complete trust. You know, and they the thing is, I can show them love through Him.
Right.
If I'm coming in and working with these people, God's love comes through me to them, and they know it. They know I love them. And they feel that love, and they feel connected, and they feel significant. Especially when I can see that they're not perfect. And that's not going to make me not love you.
Right.
If you mess up, I'm still going to love you unconditionally. Even if you mess up and you have to leave, you can always still call me.
But that's showing Christ to them. I mean, that is Christ. Like, there are people who, I know that, we all are still figuring out what our faith actually means, and learning more about the Bible. But there are some people who have a head full of theology that are not living it out. And then there are some people who may only know a couple Bible verses, but embody how God would have us live with one another. And so we talked about, your story a little bit of, God has redeemed you from a life of addiction. You had lost your kids and regained them. You went to a recovery house, didn't have such a good experience. Although I would also say that God still used that to help you to a degree in that. But there are still a lot of problematic things that you saw that ignited this passion in you without any kind of planning. Like, you're such a unique person, and that's something I'm just so intrigued by you, because you are your own person. You're not following the rules of man and how things should be. And I find that to be compelling and fascinating. And I like to hear from you because you're genuine and you're bold and you're direct. And I love that. And God has blessed you. I mean, you're like, I don't have a plan. Now, is God going to work that way through everybody? No. I mean, I'm a planner, but you don't necessarily have to be, clearly, because He's blessing you and expanding your reach through all these homes. But it's also because you've seen problems within the addiction recovery industry: corruption, unethical behavior, greed, people in it for gain, that is really hard to watch and know about. But you're just doing all you can do to love on these women. And you've been on your own spiritual journey, coming to Christ, especially in our private conversations. I love talking with you through that. So let me wrap up with this. and I'm just taking a risk here. I don't even know if I can answer the question, but if you were going to ask me a question right now about faith, about Christ, Christianity, what would you say it would be?
I would want to ask, when did you just know that, Jesus was there with you, that, that God was God, and that, you were meant to be in this field? Like, what happened to you that you were compelled to start working with addicts and recovery and people, mental health and all that, and be a life of service, I would say.
Yeah. So I didn't grow up in a Christian home. I was in jail. Had been using drugs since I was about 12, been on probation my entire adolescence. Really, I wanted freedom, and I thought the way to get freedom is to not follow any of the rules. So that's how I tried to get freedom, is to just, just do whatever I wanted to do, which ended up being to my demise. But when I was in jail, I had burned every bridge. I had no self-respect. I had no respect from others. I really didn't have any good friends. I had my family didn't trust me. And when the gospel came to me when I was locked up, it was the most refreshing thing and satisfying thing I had ever experienced. And it gave me freedom locked up that I never had even outside of jail. Christ touched the deepest part of my soul that I cannot unknow. And I know that I know that I know. Not that I don't struggle with doubt and questions. I mean, I have days where I'm like, God, are you real? Are you there? Is this all true? I mean, I do struggle with that from time to time. But it never takes me out. As you said, like, then God will show me. And then he'll reveal himself to me. Yeah. But he just touched the deepest part of my being, that it's like the seed of God was planted in me. And there's just no undoing that. Mm-hmm. And so I actually worked in the secular world for 10 plus years before I actually was able, this is the first time I've ever worked in ministry at Renew Clinic. So it's always been secular. And I've always struggled in the secular mental health recovery industry. Yeah. I've always been debating with my bosses and, being told you can't say that. And, I mean.
Yes, I know.
I mean, I've always struggled because I'm like, but, to know Christ and to see the methods and ideas that people settle for, it's really hard. Mm-hmm. And so finally so I've been in the helping industry my entire career, whether it's been working at DCS and working with parents, and I've always had a heart for like the struggling person, because that's me. Mm-hmm. And, but now I can finally just like openly talk about Christ. Not that I didn't before. I mean, I remember working in the secular world in a behavioral health care company in Virginia, and I would facilitate group in jail. That was part of my job on a weekly basis. And I went in by myself, and I would tell them the gospel, because they're asking me questions, and I'm like, I remember telling them frontwards to backwards, and they're crying. They're like, why doesn't anybody tell us this? Mm-hmm. It's so refreshing. This is what we need to hear. I'm telling you, so many of them were crying. And they said, and I could have gotten in trouble, but what am I going to do? Stand before God and him say, why didn't you tell them? Oh, I could have lost my job. Mm-hmm. When there are Christians in Nigeria losing their lives. I mean, he's true. He's real. He's alive. Historically, he died. And eyewitness testimonies, the Gospels, historical documents. I mean, people saw the living Christ, and I've experienced him to this day. So, I don't know if I answered your question. Why? How?
I do want to bring this up, though, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go on left field, though, but it's about you.
Yeah, so. Go for it.
So my Lily, my daughter, she's been in and out of facilities with mental health and all that, and the self-harm, and she dabbled in the drug use, and she went to a really dark place. And she wasn't open to anybody. Like, she wanted to talk to people that were dark like her, and that's it. And, you know, I didn't know where to go. And I was like, hey, Sarah, like, will you talk to my kid? I'm like, she's, you know, hearing things, and this is going on, and that's going on. You're like, you weren't even freaked out. You're like, yep. Spiritual affliction. And I'm like, well, okay, you're not freaked out. Maybe you can, you know, because I am. You know, so
what's happening?
You won't escalate this, right? I'm like, what are you hearing? What are they saying? But like, she was literally hearing things like, and it was religious in nature, and it was negative. And, you know, it frightened me. It did for her. And it would scare her too. And she was just going down this really, really dark path. And she's, you know, I think Lily's got a special little spirit in her. She always has. And I felt like it was turning dark. And, you know, I was like, Sarah, will you talk? And you said yes. And I was like, she is not going to talk to her. I know she's not. Because she's, you know, like, you're you, and you're, you know, like, wholesome and blonde and all that stuff. And you're not have, you know, crap in your face and everything, that metal. But, you know, I took her to meet you at the park. And you talked to her, and after that, she would ask for you. You know, because like you reached her somewhere that I couldn't reach her. You know, and that takes something divine, I believe. So there's more proof that God's working through you, because it took. I mean, I think it took more than, you know, your humanity or your, you know, flesh to get to that point and reach that inside her. When you said it had a, you know, they planted that seed deep down inside, you know, like you had to get her there. And, you know, from there, was she perfect? No, but it got better and better, you know, and then we had other friends, you know, in the Christian community. That's the only thing that really, really jolted her, you know, was, you know, people that, you know, that God would work through with her. You know, and today, I mean, like I said, she's insane. She's 13, but she's happy. She's always happy. You know, I'm like, how are you so happy all the time?
Praise God.
But it's a huge, huge shift, you know, from that depressed child that, you know, you saw a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And you had a lot to do with that, you know, in your mission. So,
praise God.
You know, that's another thing that I think about when I question, you know, I'm like, everything that, you know, has been done for her so far, it's been spiritual in nature. I wish it was just chemical.
Yeah.
That's a good word. Mental, like mental health or chemical imbalance. That would be easy to medicate it, right? But, you know, that's not all it is. And like you guys working through her, that was a true miracle.
Praise God.
You know, for my baby. So, you know,
that's God's
like, I thank you. I
testimony to
appreciate you. Yeah, for that.
Well, you know, it's something that God, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about here. It's like when you see another human being sitting in front of you, the Lord opens our eyes to see their preciousness, how He sees them. Even if they're covered in shame and feeling condemnation and feeling out of their mind or whatever, it's like, but just sometimes we just have to have that hope too for people until they can experience it themselves. But yeah, and I mean, in the case with Lily, I was just so grateful that you reached out. I mean, that's a blessing to me. It's a blessing to me. So, and I love how God speaks to you and proves Himself to you, and He'll continue to do it. But you're willing to see it. I mean, do you know how many people could have just brushed that off and been like, well, coincidence?
No,
but you have eyes to see. Yeah, you have eyes to see and ears to hear. And that's something that I love about you. You know, it's not about where you've arrived to. It's how you process through this life that I really appreciate about you.
Well, I appreciate you too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for talking with me.
This has been Waging War. Thanks for fighting alongside us this week.